So the other day, I gave you guys the breaking news story about Trump pardoning 1,500 January 6th criminals. And I believe he commuted the sentence of 6 or 7 others. Now, basically what that means is he pardoned all of them. He pardoned all of them. Violent, non-violent, everything in between. He was like, you're all free. You're all good to go. Well, at the time, we didn't yet have all of the specific information about the specific cases of who was let go. Now we have that information. Okay, so first let me point this out. Virtually every Republican politician, when they were asked beforehand about Trump potentially pardoning people from January 6th, virtually all of them said the same thing. Well, look, it's on a case-by-case basis. For the non-violent ones, yeah, it makes sense to pardon them. But for the violent ones, no, you shouldn't be pardoning them. And I'm sure he won't. So just to give you a little taste of that, here's his VP, J.D. Vance, before the election, after the election, but before the inauguration. He was asked about this. Here's what he said.
January 6 pardons, President Trump says there's a process. Where is the line drawn on who will and wouldn't be considered for a pardon?
I think it's very simple. Look, if you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. And there are a lot of people, we think, in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly. We need to rectify that.
Now, look, I don't know if this is a controversial thing to say. I don't know if this is a hot take. But that actually strikes me as perfectly reasonable. That strikes me to say, hey, the nonviolent ones, yeah, I could see there being some leniency there, but for the violent ones, you can't do it. That's perfectly reasonable, right? But as you all know, this is not the path that our big, beefy, wet boy decided to go down. So here, let me give you some specifics. Here are some of the January 6th defendants who received a full and unconditional pardon from Trump. Dave Dempsey was convicted of repeatedly assaulting police officers with pepper spray, a metal crutch, and wooden and metal poles, and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Somebody who committed brazen and clear assault, totally free. Daniel Rodriguez was convicted of using a stun gun and plunging it multiple times into the police officer Michael Fanoni's neck. In the words of prosecutors, Rodriguez was sentenced to more than 12 years in prison. By the way, that officer has validated this story and did an appearance in the media and said, basically, my country betrayed me and Trump betrayed me by letting this guy go. Peter Schwartz, according to the DOJ, was convicted of wielding a large MK-46 canister and carrying a wooden tire thumper. Schwartz began indiscriminately spraying OC spray at any retreating police officers he could find. Here's Ryan Nichols, who pleaded guilty to assaulting officers with pepper spray and yelled, "If you have a weapon, you need to get your weapon." Let's see if I guess we got a video here. Let's see.
I'm telling you what, I'm hearing the Pence. I'm hearing the Pence just caved.
No.
Is that true? I'm hearing reports that Pence caved. No I'm telling you, if Pence caved, we're gonna drag motherfuckers through the streets. You fucking politicians are gonna get fucking drugged through the streets. Yeah.
This goes on. You get the gist of it. Keith Packer stormed the Capitol while wearing a Camp Auschwitz sweatshirt. Underneath was another Nazi-themed shirt. Camp Auschwitz. Unconditional pardon. Julian Cater pleaded guilty to pepper spraying Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick in the face. Sicknick died the following day due to 2 strokes. Though his cause of death was officially considered natural, his family blames the violence. Remember, guys, about 45% of the crimes were violent that day. 55% were nonviolent, 45% were violent. 140 police officers were assaulted. Thomas Webster was convicted of tackling a police officer to the ground and attempting to remove his mask and helmet. The officer struggled to breathe, according to 2 prosecutors, and others in the mob began kicking the officer. Christopher Quaglin was sentenced to 12 years in prison for repeatedly assaulting officers, tackling one to the ground, assaulting them with riot shields, and spraying officers with chemical spray directly in their faces. Unconditional pardon. Unconditional pardon. So naturally, when you do something like this, it's a bit of a shock to the system, right? And as soon as people, like, When people start hearing the specifics of the violent criminals who were let go, they go, actually, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But Trump was asked about this. Ready? This is an amazing clip. This is classic Trump.
You would agree that it's never acceptable to assault a police officer.
Sure.
Right? So then if I can, among those you pardoned DJ Rodriguez, he drove a stun gun into the neck of a DC police officer who was abducted by the mob that day. He later confessed on video to the FBI and pleaded guilty for his crimes. Why does he deserve a pardon?
Well, I don't know. Was it a pardon? Because we're looking at commutes and we're looking at pardons. Okay, well, we'll take a look.
Caught completely and utterly red-handed, checkmated at the first question. And was it pardon? Was it commutation? I don't know. Oh, it was a pardon. We'll take a look. What does that mean? We'll take a look. You can't unpardon somebody. You can't put him back in prison. He knows what he did. He knows what he did. But since the violence was done on behalf of him, he says, that's perfectly fine. And that, ladies and gentlemen, sets a precedent. The precedent is, if you are my stormtroopers, if you are my Gestapo, I got your back. If you do rank violence, if you assault people, it's totally fine as long as it's for me. So clearly, and everybody knows this at this point, I never want to hear another word about law and order ever from any Republican ever again, right? As far as I'm concerned, the left gets one on the House, right? Antifa gets one on the House. BLM gets one on the House. Because this is like, how long did they scream about George Floyd protesters? Oh my God, the rioters and the burning down buildings, bro, doing all these bad things, bro. They still talk about that to this day. 5 years later, they still talk about it. But when it comes to January 6th, pardon all of them. Unconditional pardon for all of them. Flip the script. If this was Democrats who stormed the Capitol, tried to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power, Biden did a fake elector slate, and then Biden pardoned people who assaulted police officers who wore a Camp Auschwitz shirt, what would the right say? They would never, ever, ever shut the fuck up about it. They would hammer Democrats from now until the end of time about how they love criminals, they hate the police, they don't believe in law and order, they're vicious thugs, this is Antifa has taken over our government. And here Trump does it. Doesn't care. And plays stupid when asked directly about it. I will take a look at it. What does that mean? What does that mean? He knows. The deed's done. It's over. Like, that's it. He's free. He's gone. You got what's-his-face, the QAnon shaman. The very first thing he said is, I can't wait to go buy some guns, bro. Awesome. Deeply mentally ill, highly political criminal running to buy some guns. Understand, this is all by design. This is all on purpose. They want right-wing gangster thug criminals to act as their stormtroopers. That's what they want. Keep everybody in line. Let Trump get away with whatever the fuck he wants to get away with. This is day one. We're talking about these pardons, bro. Day one. Now, I was telling everybody before the election, I said, look, this Trump term is going to be different in some ways. The way it's going to be different is completely unchained, completely unleashed and unhinged. And the authoritarianism is going to be ramped up tenfold. Why? Because now it's nothing but loyalists and sycophants around him. And there's nobody to tell him no. He knows the Supreme Court said any official act, you have immunity. So he goes, hey, this is an official act on my part. I want to pardon all the January 6 people. What are you going to do? But you're going to do nothing. You're going to do nothing. You're going to sit there and fucking take it. So now there are no reasonable voices. There are no sane voices. Next time there is a left-wing protest, you bet your ass he might order them to get shot in the leg like he tried to do the last time before he was reeled in by the generals. This is where we are. Completely and utterly authoritarian. Democracy, my ass cheeks. This ain't a fucking democracy. Look at what we're talking about here. And people had the nerve to clutch their pearls about Biden's fucking pardons. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? How much worse are these compared to Biden's? How much worse? Jesus fucking Christ. So there we go. So now, by the way, just so you know, literally none of the Republicans are able to defend this. They can't. They can't. When they're asked about, like Marco Rubio was asked about, he's like, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about me now being the Secretary of State. They can't defend it. They can't defend it. But at this point, they don't even have to, because he's just going to do whatever the fuck he wants, and that's the end of the conversation. That's it. That's how our system works now. It feels a hell of a lot more like a dictatorship or a tyranny than it does like a democracy at this point, doesn't it? That's clear. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.